Good morning. We would like to welcome you to this electronic version of the Wildlife Board meeting. It originates from the Eccles Wildlife Center in Farmington, Utah. I'll have board members in electronic attendance introduce themselves, but we'll start with Paula, who is actually on site.
Thank you, Gary. Paula, Richmond, representing the Southern region.
Justin, go ahead.
Justin Oliver, representing the Northern region.
Ryan. We'll go with Chris, Kent, and then Bob.
Is Chris not on? I'll go ahead and introduce myself. Kent Johnson, Southeast Region.
Bob Christensen, Northeast Region, and I apologize. I can't seem to get my video to work yet, the camera.
Just go ahead and introduce yourself, Bob.
Yeah, Bob Christensen with the Northeast Region.
Do we have any other board members with us? All right. During this meeting, we'll also be hearing from division personnel, Mike Wardle, Rusty Robinson, Lindy Varney. We also have Director Riley Peck with us on this. Stacy, are we ready to go with our first agenda item?
Yes, we're clear to have Mike pull his PowerPoint up.
Okay. First item of business is we need an approval for the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Agenda proposed by Kent and seconded by Justin. All in favor, say aye and raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All right. Our next action item is the drought permit request, and we'll hear from Mike Wardle, the big game coordinator on that. Mike.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I will share my screen. All right, are you guys seeing my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So again, I'm Mike Wardle. I'm the big game coordinator for the Division of Wildlife Resources. I'll give you a brief presentation about some additional antlerless permit. That's what we're recommending for this hunting season due to drought conditions. Just to give some background, each spring is when we set our antlerless permits. That gives us time so that we can hold the antlerless draw during the summer. But at that point, we really don't know exactly what range conditions are going to look like, what kind of rain we're going to get, the timing on the rain. And so throughout the summer, we ask our biologists to stay in really close contact with land managers. So Forest Service, BLM, private landowners, and continue to monitor forage conditions on the ground. In years like this, where we have severe drought and it reduces forage availability, we want to be responsive to those changing conditions, so that we're being good partners with with the agencies and the landowners that are really managing these landscapes. So occasionally we come back to the Wildlife Board later in the summer and recommend additional antlerless permits. This helps us be flexible and more responsive to current conditions. So as we all know, the summer was extremely hot and dry. We have received some good monsoon moisture the past few weeks, but we're still not out of the woods. If you look at that map on the right, you can see that most of our state is still experiencing either severe or extreme drought conditions. So based on that, we're going to be recommending some additional permits that I'll outline today. And all of these units that we're recommending additional antlerless elk permits on are either above their objective, or if they have a range of a population objective, they are above that bottom end of the range. So this table shows the additional permits that we're recommending for the southern region. You can see on the left, the furthest left column in the table, it shows the unit name. And then that next column over that is shaded in gray are the additional permits that we're recommending. And then the next column shows the original permits. Then you can see the hunt number, the season dates of that hunt, the weapon type. And then those two far right columns show the population estimate for elk on that unit. And that far right column shows the objective. Here in the southern region, our objectives are based on a range. And we've committed that during years of bad drought or some other forage limiting scenario, we will manage towards that lower end of the objective. And so these additional permits will help us get to that lower end. You can see in the bottom, that bottom row, that we're recommending a total of 225 additional permits for the southern region. This next slide shows the same thing, but for the northeastern region. We're only recommending additional permits on one unit there, and that's the North Slope Three Corners. You can see that the objective is 700 and we are over objective at 825. Our biologist visited with landowners and land management agencies there and felt like we could increase permits and try to bring those numbers down. This slide shows our recommendations for the central region. We're recommending additional permits on 2 units. That's on the Nebo and the Wasatch West. Both of those units are currently over their population objective. And you can see that we're recommending an additional 180 permits in the central region. So to summarize, this is an effort for us to try and be responsive to the current conditions and support healthy land management. And so we're recommending 450 additional permits for the 2026 season across the state. These permits are distributed through alternate lists. So for each individual hunt, our licensing staff will pull an alternate list, and these are folks who put in for that individual hunt during the antlerless draw, and they'll call these people and give them an opportunity to obtain one of these permits. And with that, I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, Kent.
Quick, in the event that your alternate list, you don't fill the permits, how are you planning to distribute them?
Do you mind answering that, Lindy?
Yep. So Lindy, Varney, yeah. If we don't get them through, then, we haven't had that happen in the past. So we've never had to go on, put them on sale or over the counter. But if that does come, then we will have those discussions internally and see what's best depending on the number or what. But we've looked at this list and we do have alternates for all of them right now. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I think this makes good sense, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Any others?
Yeah, this is Bob. I do have one question. couple of the units in the southern region are already close to the lower end of the population objective. And just wanted to ask Mike, with the additional permits, you don't think it's going to go below that? You're pretty confident that it'll stay right at that low end or in the range with the additional cow permits?
Yeah, I'm talking with the biologists. They felt comfortable that we weren't going to overshoot and get underneath, the objectives. Some of these hunts, they have varying success rates. Some of the hunts, they might have a success rate of 60%, while others are lower, at 20%. And so it really varies based on the hunt of what the impact is going to be to the population.
Okay, thanks.
Mike, I have a question on the Monroe, where last year's fire and where we're at. How are we looking on those scars as far as vegetation growth? Have you had a chance to observe that much and where we're at with that unit?
Teresa, do you want to respond to that, or would you like me to?
Maybe respond. I mean, I haven't been on the Monroe and we don't have Vance with us today, but it does take a while to grow back, but I mean, it starts pretty immediately. Mike, what do you want to add?
Yeah, I actually, Vance sent me a text just yesterday saying that the Monroe looks awesome. I also got a couple pictures from sportsmen in the southern region that just harvested a cow elk with his bow and was like, man, the fire looks great. So that mountain is responding quickly at those higher elevations. So yeah, it's looking good.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Welcome, Ryan.
We'll have a question just in relation to the southern versus central, where central is over objective, but they have a lower percentage of increase. I'm just wondering what the rationale is there for the lower increase of permits for central versus southern.
So I think that we face different pressures in different regions. The southern has always been a little different than other regions. That's why we have ranges there. So the percentages are going to be different based on region. We didn't try and do like a blanket, decrease or increase permits by this much percentage or anything like that. This was really a individual unit based discussion. We wanted our individual biologists that are managing the unit to be visiting with their district rangers, their range conservation, and their landowners, and talking about what do conditions look like. And so it really is based individually on the units, not so much. I mean, I grouped them as region, but it's really based individually on the units.
And is a lot of that related to drought conditions in the south versus central?
Yeah, that's also part of it too. And the central, we're a little further above objective on those 2 units as compared to some of those southern region units. If you noticed in that packet, there's like a lot of the southern region units were within our objective range, but those 2 units in the central were above objective. So they're being a little more aggressive.
So Mike, if every one of those permittees filled their tag, how would that affect the population? Would we still be where we want to be? If we get those deep snows, it looks like it might push them down. And, I know that's a wish on the high side, but.
Sure, yeah. So when we looked at these, we looked at each of those individual hunts and looked at the success rates for the past 3 or 4 years. So I don't think it's likely that every single one of these hunters will fill their tag. But we tried to account for that by looking at those success rates and determining how many cows these guys will actually end up killing.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Do you have any comment cards, Stacy? Looks like a no on that one. All right. If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Chris.
Chris Robinson, I move that we approve the additional antlerless permits due to this severe drought as presented in the packet.
Motion made by Chris,
I'll second it.
seconded by Kent. All in favor, say aye and raise your hands, please.
Aye.
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 Right. Motion passes unanimously. All right, we'll move on to our next action item, and that's the bison hunts. Rusty Robinson's going to speak to that. He's our once-in-a-lifetime coordinator. Go ahead, Rusty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Rusty Robinson. I'm the once-in-a-lifetime species coordinator for the division. And I'll be presenting some changes to, some recommended changes to the hunt structure and also some hunter accommodations on the Book Cliffs Bison Bitter Creek unit. No, that was not. There we go. Just to provide a little context of what's going on. We collared quite a few bison on the Bitter Creek unit this winter. And on July 28th, we started getting really rapid concentrated mortality alerts from some of those collars, which is alarming because bison are usually in the high 90s for annual survival rate. And so it was unexpected and really concentrated. And in the span of about a week, we lost a lot of collars. I think 16 of those collars went into mortality. So we went and performed necropsies. We took a lot of biological samples. We brought in whole carcasses to the lab to really see what was going on. On August 7th, we got some of those results back, and they indicated that all these mortalities were due to pneumonia, and we detected a couple pathogens that were concerning Mannheimia hemolytica, which is a Pastorella species, and bovine respiratory syncytial virus. And the complex is really similar to bighorn sheep, where that BRSV goes in and attacks the cilia in the respiratory tract and really kind of breaks down the immune system. And then it opens the path for a secondary infection from pathogens like this Mannheimia hemolytica and gives the animal pneumonia. And who knows if there were any stressors or if it was just, the pathogens themselves, but stressors like heat, drought, and smoke can also contribute to some of these issues. Before this outbreak, we estimate we had about 150 adults. And after the outbreak, we estimate we're around 90 adults. We went out to the unit, we did thorough ground counts of every bison we could find. And that's our best guess. So we probably lost around 40% of the population in that week. We don't anticipate that losses will continue. We think this was an acute one-time event. And just for context, the population objective is 250 adults. This is what the current hunt structure looks like in the unit. We have an archery hunt that is ongoing right now. It started 5 days ago, and there's 6 permits on that hunt. We've got 2 hunter's choice and illegal weapon hunts, one in September and one in October, with 11 permits and 8 permits. And we have a cow only hunt in November with 15 permits. So with a total of 40 permits on the unit, you can see the challenge we have, both for the hunter who is now trying to hunt a unit with a reduced population, and that can be challenging. And also as managers, where we're tasked with regrowing this population over the next few years. So for those reasons, we have some recommendations that we'd like to implement on the unit that we think would help and be fair to the hunter and also accommodating to the hunter. So for the archery hunt, we're not recommending any changes to that. That season is already underway. We've notified all the hunters, and we believe the unit can definitely handle those permits and that pressure. As I said, there's still 90 adults. It looks like the cows took it harder than bulls. And so there's still enough bulls to hunt on that unit. The 2 hunter's choice, any legal weapon hunts, we're recommending to waive the 30-day surrender requirement and give hunters the option whether to retain the permit and hunt as planned, or to surrender the permit given the added challenges that exist. And if hunters choose to surrender their permit, we recommend reinstating their bonus points and adding 1 for the current year, just like they didn't draw, issuing a refund for the permit minus the processing fee, and waiving the once in a lifetime waiting period. For the cow only hunt, which is really the one that's most concerning, it's hard to harvest 15 cows when you've already been, brought your population down that low. And so for that hunt, we're recommending to waive the 30-day surrender requirement and give hunters the option to keep their permit and hunt with a modified hunt boundary. In this case, it would be the Book Cliffs Little Creek South unit. So they can move their hunt, keep the same dates, but move it to the roadless area. Or they can surrender their permit. And if they choose to surrender their permit, we recommend all the things we're recommending for the any legal weapon hunts. Reinstate their bonus points, add 1 for the current year, issue a refund for their permit, and waive the once in a lifetime waiting period. We're also recommending to cancel this hunt for 2027, as we don't anticipate hunting cows until we can regrow this herd. One final note and request, we're going to continue to monitor the bison in the roadless area, or the Little Creek South unit, due to proximity, and just make sure that there's not going to be a spillover to that population. We don't anticipate that at this point, but if something like that were to happen, we request the ability to make similar adjustments and accommodations on that unit for hunters, just so we can be timely and respond to those things as they're happening, if they happen. Although, again, we don't anticipate it. And thank you. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rusty. Hey, before we do the questions from the board, let's do a roll call. We'll start with Justin, and then Ryan, and then Bob, and then Kent, and then Chris, please.
Justin from the northern region, and I'm still here.
Ryan Foutz with, I think, at large or northern region. Can you guys hear me okay, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just sitting in a coffee shop in Beaver, so.
Bob Christensen with the Northeast region, still present.
Kent Johnson, Southeast region.
Chris Robinson, Central region, president and accounted for.
Paula?
Paula Richmond in the southern region, still here. Ryan and I traded places. He's in Beaver, I'm up north.
All right, and I'm Gary Nielson. I'm the board chair, and I'm representing the central region. All right, based on what Rusty just told us and showed us, or we have any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I got a question. Rusty, I mean, at the time, we gave 6 permits in archery, correct, right? Guys are hunting.
Correct.
They're into this hunt 5 days with a reduction of 40% opportunity. Man, I'm inclined to think that we ought to give these guys an option to surrender their permit if they haven't harvested. I mean, because they based the 6 permits off 150 population, and now we're down to 90, but we still have the same number of permits against that. I'm a little sympathetic to those guys that drew the tag and have that reduced opportunity. on obviously took a large hit, with unfortunately 40% loss.
Yeah.
Is there any, I'd like to hear from the other board members, but I think we need to give these archery hunters some window to either roll over the next year and surrender their tag or some other option that may be, I think, in the best interest of fairness with them.
So question I have, I've heard of our 6 someone told me that 2 have been successful up to now. Is that still accurate?
That's what I've heard. Yes. And I think we've only had one person do the official report, but that's what I've heard is that 2 have harvested.
Have you heard any feedback from those hunters? Do they feel, have they requested this at all, or do we know anything about their experience?
We've heard from some archers that were a little bit frustrated to see those recommendations, that there was nothing for them. And I hope they don't feel like they're singled out, like this is just archery. If this was a hunter's choice or an illegal weapon hunt, that was the first hunt with that long of a season, and that few permits, we would have done the same thing. The biggest factor in this was just timing. We said the board meetings, and all this has happened really fast. I mean, as soon as we found out what we were dealing with, it was August 7th. We spent the whole next week ground counting bison. We got done counting bison on last Thursday, and then we had to turn around and send in a memo on Friday. And so this has all happened really, really fast. But the timing of that hunt in particular, we just figured the board meeting's on the 20th. By the time we get to the board, they will have already hunted 5 days. I don't know how you reinstate someone's points and that sort of thing if they've already been hunting 5 days. And so you can tell them, we're going to recommend this, but we don't know what the board's going to decide. So maybe you shouldn't hunt for 5 days. And then if you guys decide something different, then they're frustrated that way. So it was just, the timing was really hard and unfortunate.
So Rusty, back to my question. I know we've heard from some archers. Have we heard specifically from the tag holders? So
I have not heard from the ones that harvested. Is that what you're asking, or the ones that
no, the one that have not?
We have heard from them. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And there has been some frustration.
Okay.
So this is Bob. Just a couple of comments about that. The archery hunt there, the archery hunters, if you remember right, they asked for additional permit or 2 last time, and that was given to them. But the hunt, if I recall right, this hunt was supposed to be a hunt originally that would be a tough hunt. And they do have 30 days to harvest, which is quite a long season. And it sounds like the division's okay with the 6 permits. And then the hunt it's already going. So I guess in my opinion, I think as far as the hunters are concerned, I would think that they would have ample time, especially where it was originally supposed to be a difficult hunt. It may be a little bit more difficult this year than years past. The years past, it's been 100% success. And so this year actually may put it into the category of where it was supposed to be originally, just a little harder hunt.
Well, as an archer, all archery hunts are difficult. I don't know that I could categorize this. I just know you're hunting 40% less. So I'm sympathetic to the guys out there hunting 40% less of the population going into this and burning their points. So,
Ryan, I agree with you, but I also start thinking, what if it was something? I mean, ultimately, these permits they're based off of what biologically is good for the herd and what we're trying to manage. We also do want to try to give hunters a good opportunity, but what if we were to be, what if rainstorms, other things, and I don't know, I hate using the word precedent, but I think there's going to be challenges. They're challenging when there are a few more animals, but it could be no different than if those monsoonal rains and they couldn't get on the unit for 2 straight weeks due to roads or water. We don't generally reissue tags for issues like that. And so I think they still have the opportunity. And so I'm kind of inclined to tell them you still got a couple more weeks and go out there and hunt and hopefully they'll be successful or at least have opportunities. Is kind of how I look at it. But I do understand where you're coming from though.
Hey, Rusty, do you feel like there's a sufficient amount of animals to still have a good hunt for them? I mean, I know I had a chance to hunt that several years ago, and that was about the population of the buffalo then. And that's, they're still around, you have to find them, it's trickier, but.
Yeah, I think that hunt has become more difficult in the last couple of years just because they've really started to utilize that east side more. And there's more water, there's more feed. And so they are more dispersed. So it's a challenging hunt to begin with. But we feel like we have the animals for it. I think I mentioned the cows seem to go through this outbreak harder than the bulls. The bulls didn't have near as high as mortality rates as some of the cows. And so we believe there's sufficient bulls on the unit to hunt. Is it going to be challenging? Yeah, probably pretty challenging.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Chris.
I tend to agree with Ryan that we should make an allowance for those that haven't already harvested. It's a very small number. And I do think that it's a pretty extreme condition that we're dealing with. And I don't think it's a huge precedential risk. So I would be inclined to cut those remaining 4 some slack.
Thank you, Chris.
I just want to add too, this is a once in a lifetime permit. This isn't deer and, elk that have population swings and that kind of thing. I mean, I just can't imagine drawing this tag after whatever bonus points and not having what I would consider a reasonable opportunity with the population decline of 40%. I mean, I just think that's something we really should consider.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying, Ryan, and I appreciate that point of view. I do, and I still think that they have ample opportunities still in their hunt. And anyway, so I'm inclined to follow the division's recommendation on this.
I have a question. What would it look like, let's say today, that we do vote to let them, suspend their hunt? I mean, do we put a time on it? Do we say, okay, today at dusk, the hunt's over? What does it look like if we do that? And then, I don't know, do we let them try to hunt? And if they're not successful, go again next year. I think there's some more difficult that might come with us just saying they can go where it's already started. I don't know. I'm open to look to suggestions what it would look like if we did this, I guess.
I know in the past when we've offered any sort of relief, if the hunt has already started and people have been hunting, that kind of complicates it dramatically. And it kind of does on this one too. And yeah, I don't know, Rusty, you feel like there's a sufficient amount of animals to actually still offer a good opportunity? So.
Yeah, I guess this is Bob again. The other thing, if you look at the other hunters, I mean, do we let them hunt the first couple of days? And I don't know. It just seems like since the hunt's already started that, and since the it's been 100% success the last few years, and hunt's already started. It seems like they have ample time. They still have a few more weeks. It's a longer hunt than any of the other hunts. And anyway, so I just think it'd complicate things as well.
Well, I appreciate everybody's comments on that. I'm still going to go back to they put in knowing that there was and the division put out 6 permits. Rusty, clarification on the permits. Are these either sex? I forgot. Are these?
Yes, they're hunter's choice, and most
hunter's
people target
choice.
bulls.
Yeah. But I'm still going to go back to the 40%. I just think, we put out 6 permits. We do this both ways, and I think we got to honor both ways. When we set permit numbers based on the division's recommendation, which we typically approve, we're basing that off what they've said was done. We've said that there were 6 permits offered at 150 bison population on the unit. Now it's down to 90. I get the fact that some of these hunted 5 days, it's 5 days today. It opened on the 15th, correct?
It did, yep.
Yeah, so 5 days have gone by. Not that big of a window. I think a deadline could be set. Maybe that's Friday. I don't know. Make an attempt to contact all of them. And if we don't hear from you by Friday, then, we'll come up or reinstate your close the hunt and reinstate the permit for next year. I'm going to go back. It's a once in a lifetime. If this was sheep or goat or moose, I mean, this is pretty big tag to have that kind of a decline in that population and then be able to hunt. And I get the fact that it's been 100%, but that was 100% on 150 animals in years past. And it sounds like it's struggled. It's not at 250 where it should be. So, and we're closing the hunt next year. So that option's now gone. I guess where would we put their permit? If we reinstate it, or they just get their bonus points back. But I think those things just need to be offered. And then if they don't, let's say by a deadline of Friday at 5 o'clock, attempting to contact them. I just don't feel like that's too hard of a thing to put out there for them.
I see what you're saying, Ryan, and I kind of agree with you. I'm like Justin. I'm looking at this, and there's complications. Where do you draw the line? And then let's say you use your proposal and draw the line at Friday. What about guys that are on the mountain and out of cell service, and they don't get back in coverage until Monday or Tuesday? And they've lost an opportunity. It's really complicated. I think once the hunt has already started, and I kind of understand where Rusty's coming from with saying that this really sucks, but there's not a lot that can be done and do it fairly, just because of the complications of the hunt already having started.
Paula, go ahead. Go
Sorry.
ahead, Paula.
Okay, thank you. I try to put myself in this situation if it was me that drew that tag, and I would be like, it's a tough situation. It's hard. It's unfortunate. But I don't know if I would look for other people to solve my problem. There's still animals out there to hunt. I mean, there's 90. We know the cows were mostly affected. So there should be proportionally of those 90, there should be a good amount of bulls to harvest. I think I just have to say I got to get my butt out there and work hard as I can and see what I can drum up with this. Things happen. I'm heartbroken for him. It's really hard, and I feel for him, but I don't think I would be looking for someone to fix a problem that nature caused or outside sources. So that's kind of where I'm at. I feel for him, but if it was me, I don't know if I would, knowing that there's animals out there that I can still find and hunt, I would put that on me to find them.
Thank you, Paula. I kind of feel the same. Director Peck, would you still like to comment?
Yeah, maybe. This one was a tough one, and I wanted just to give you guys a little insight onto the discussion as to why we had a short period of time as Rusty Robinson described in the time frame. And the challenge of recommending this was not an easy one, and we spent a lot of time discussing this. One of the options in the landing spots that did get brought up on this one, however, knowing that the hunt had already started, was the discussion of allowing them to hunt the other unit, similar to the option that would be given to the either sex permits. We felt like when you have the challenge of the hunt already starting and environmental factors that are outside of your control, it is very similar to any other challenge of the hunt: heavy snow, heavy rain, fog, similar issues that come about. And so it puts us as the division in a predicament when you have hunters that have already been successful, hunters that have already stalked, had a chance, and then said, no, I'm going to give it back and I'm going to try this again next year. And it feels a little odd. And so our landing spot we talked about, and do with what you will, I will leave it to you after this comment, was we felt strongly that canceling the hunt or giving the option to turn in was very difficult. But if grace was going to be extended, we wanted that to be extended to the other unit and not cancel the hunt. And so I hope I haven't persuaded your decision inappropriately, but wanted to let you know or let you in onto some of the difficult discussions that we had in proceeding to this recommendation.
So with the hunt not happening next year, it's pretty hard to say, okay, push to next year. We don't know the points. I don't know if we have random points. I mean, the fact that they get their point reinstated really might not ever give them an opportunity to hunt again anyway in a long time. I am open to maybe discussing that other option if it is difficult. Maybe the thing that we could do is allow them to possibly hunt another unit, if that's something that we want to discuss. But I think we've had 2 guys be successful. They still have 25 days. I think we need to, I don't know, or this hunt's not going to happen next year. That really changes things. It's another thing to think about. So I either think we let them just go hunt, or we could explore the option of possibly allowing them to let them hunt another unit as well.
I like the idea of letting him hunt another unit. I think that might be a good compromise.
If I'm understanding right, it's not the archery hunt that's canceled next year. It's just the cow hunt. So
Correct. Yeah, that's what I was going to clarify. We're only recommending to cancel the cow hunt next year, and we'll likely continue these other hunts in reduced numbers.
But will the archers on the bulls this year, those 4 remaining, are they limited to their original unit, or are they able to pivot to another unit that didn't suffer the pneumonia loss?
Well, that's what Director Peck was talking about, that's when they originally were discussing options, they talked about that. What kind of archery tags do we have on the road list already? I mean, are there guys there hunting now? I mean, I know when we were considering switching the other tags over to that next unit, there's a bunch of people that have waited a really long time to go hunt that unit too, and the increased impact on that unit from having a bunch of additional hunters in there is going to cause them some grief as well. So I mean, there's no really good way to solve this problem.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that same thing too. And I'm not saying I'm not sympathetic, because I am. I get it. I understand it's a once in a lifetime hunt, and I get that. But even just moving it to another unit, that could cause problems and issues with other hunters out there on the other unit.
yeah, I'd be curious to see how many people would take the option to defer to next year versus trying to hunt the other unit. You know, if half of them decide that they want to wait, that would be a little less pressure, but that's tough on the other units as well, for those that have those tags. And there's problems where in the past those buffalo have left the area because of pressure, and we definitely don't want to start that again.
Rusty,
I
can you,
spoke with Clint Sampson about it yesterday, where on the cow hunt, we're offering the option potentially to allow the other hunters to move on to the Little Creek. And he had already contacted all of the permittees for the cow hunt. And he indicated to me that there's only like one or two of them that would take the option of going to the Little Creek to hunt. So in the part, that late cow season, at least that one would not adversely affect the unit on the Little Creek. But that, I didn't ask him about this with the early archery, that might look like. I do know from spending a lot of time on the Little Creek unit myself, the bison are susceptible. They respond to the pressure and they respond quick up there. If they start feeling pressure, whether it's hunters or just a lot of people up there recreating, just riding horses and stuff, they pull out.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Rusty, can you tell us what the populations, we're talking about 4 permits here, if we were to give them opportunity to hunt somewhere else. Can you give us the population numbers on the other units, Little Creek and Roadless? And
Yeah, so this past year we redid the unit management plan, and we kind of set a split objective for the Bitter Creek and the Roadless, and so we're kind of keeping track a little better as far as the different units. Maybe the region can correct me if I'm wrong, but when they count them in the late winter, early spring, there's it's roughly 400 adults in that Little Creek South unit. And please chime in and correct me if I'm wrong. The region's on somewhere.
One other thing that I had the opportunity of sitting in on that committee when we redone the bison management plan for the Book Cliff. And the reason for the increased population objective that was done in that plan, it wasn't just like we have a struggling population until this outbreak, of course. But we increased that, and the proposal came out of the committee because there was room for the bison up there. One of the producers, Mark Hill, that was on the Book Cliffs, he left, sold out all of his cattle, and completely pulled off of that unit. So there was a lot more room for animals up there. And the actual proposal actually came from the other producer that was up there, Clay McCaffney. Is that all correct, Clint? Am I remembering correct, right?
Right, Clint, speak to us.
Yeah, so in the roadless currently, oh, you got me on camera and everything. Perfect. Currently, there's probably not more than maybe 100 bison right now in there. That herd is a very migratory dependent coming off the tribal lands. And so currently, like most of the collars are still on the tribal side, and doesn't mean there's not bison in the unit, but the majority of the bison will continue to filter in throughout the fall.
Clint, what do the counts look like when you fly after they've migrated in?
So our estimate on adults in the roadless after last year was 415. But currently, the majority of those animals are still on the tribe migrating over.
So Clint, if we allowed those 4 hunters to hunt the roadless to fill their tags, what kind of an impact do you see that having? Is that going to adversely affect it in any way?
Right now, it definitely could have some negative impacts just because there's not 400 animals in there currently for all the current archery guys in there. And they do respond pretty well the pressure. And so I think that would be an added burden to those other hunters. And just throw my 2 cents in there about the 6 permits. My original recommendation was 5, and then the archery hunters insisted that we, rethink it and try to add another one to it. And of the 2 hunters that have harvested, the other 4, I know one of them had a really decent opportunity the other day and let an arrow fly at a big bull. And he said there was several other shooter bulls in the herd that he was hunting at that time. So that would, the archery hunt, I think initially was not expected to have 100% success, and having those results, it's great, good for the archery guys, but we intended this to be a more demanding, a tougher hunt, if you will. So just something to keep in mind.
So I realize there's probably not near as many animals running around, we're a few short, but most of them are cows. Do you feel like they still have a reasonable opportunity to harvest a buffalo? These archery hunters?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, thank you. Ryan.
Just a clarification, we're talking about 2 different units. Roadless that currently has about 100 in population. Bitter Creek, Rusty, which you said is about 400, correct?
No, the Bitter Creek is the one
Let me
that,
clarify that, yeah.
yeah, the Bitter Creek is the one that suffered the pneumonia outbreak. They're down to about 90 adults.
Okay.
The Little Creek South or roadless unit, whatever you want to call it, like Clint clarified, there's probably 100 animals in there right now. But then as the fall and winter go on, they migrate in. And when we count in the early spring, there's closer to 400. That answer your question?
It did, thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments from board members?
Is the next move to solicit a motion, or are you seeking, Mr. Chair, commentary from other staff?
Well, unless there's somebody else you want to hear from, we're creeping right up on motion time.
I have a question. Are we going to just discuss archery right now and move to the other hunts and do some more discussion, or is this an all encompassing motion?
I would like to have a separate the archery that we're currently talking about. Rusty, and comment to you and your team and everybody involved. I mean, what you've done and the other recommendations, I think going forward are great. They're awesome. I think we ought to have 2 sets of recommendation on archery, current 4 hunters that are remaining versus the rest of the recommendations going forward with those units. That'd be my recommendation.
I agree.
I
Okay, well,
agree. I agree.
I'll entertain a motion on the first, and the balance of this other than the archery part. We'll get that out of the way, and then we can talk a little more archery if we'd like to.
It's my last comment, I think, based off of Clint's remark. I mean, I don't think it's a good idea to try to put them on the other unit. So as much as I'm sympathetic towards our other 4 guys who have the permit, it sounds like we know of another one of the hunters who's having an opportunity. It sounds like they're out there. I believe they still have that opportunity, and so I'm inclined to agree with the proposal. I'm willing to make a motion right now, but with respect to Ryan, if he would like to make a motion first and see where it goes, I would allow him to do that.
I thought that the idea was that we were gonna consider everything but the archery, but it sounds like, Justin, that you're willing to make a motion just to approve everything as written.
No, I am talking about I am talking about the archery first. If we wanted, I'd say we get archery off the table, whether we approve it or not, and then talk about the remainder.
Justin, go ahead and make the motion.
I make the motion that we accept the division's proposal in regards to the archery bison permit on the, remind me the name of the unit there. I get them all so mixed up.
But Cliff's Bitter Creek.
Book Cliffs, Bitter Creek, and it, you know, we accept the division's proposal as presented with regards to the archery permits.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to accept.
You broke up, Gary.
I thought I was breaking up.
No, you're loud and clear, Gary.
Yeah, this is Bob. Just to clarify, so it was to accept the division's recommendation, right? For the archery.
For the archery.
Which is that there's no change. They've just
Yeah,
business as
okay.
usual, right, Justin?
Correct.
So
We've lost our chair.
I think so. I was gonna. Are you there, Mr. Chairman? I had a quick question. I mean, if we're just gonna vote to with the division's proposal as presented, why don't we just do the entire thing?
I would like to do it because I want clarity to see who's voting how. I think that's
Okay.
fair that we do that because I'm frankly going to vote against this. I'm just being upfront, but I support all the other recommendations. So I
Okay.
think it's important that we show how we're voting.
Okay, perfect. Fair enough. Thanks, Ryan.
Is there somebody else? Who's our vice chair? Is that you, Paula?
Yeah, Stacy,
Well, I
should I
think-
take over on the vote?
We had a second, didn't we?
Yeah, Bob
Well,
said.
Well,
We
then
did.
you're in charge of calling the question. Paula, you're in charge of calling.
Wait,
Oh, wait.
Go ahead. She said, wait a minute.
I see the boss
Can
is
you hear me now?
returned. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. As a reminder,
Very
Mr.
nice
Chair, we
guy.
have a motion and a second. We're waiting for you to call the vote.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that. We're ready for a vote. So we're voting on just the archery part, not the entire package. Okay. All right. All those in favor, and we'll start with Ryan.
Opposed?
Okay. Justin,
In favor.
Paula,
Yes.
Chris,
No.
Kent,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
okay, the vote is 4-2. Motion passes. All right. Let's talk about the rest of it.
Chair,
Yes.
I move that we adopt the rest of the Bison modifications as proposed.
Okay, motion made by Chris to adopt as proposed the rest of the balance of the recommendation.
I'll second
There's-
that.
I have a question real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know legally where it's a cow only hunt. Can we encourage them to shoot bulls, or because what they applied for was cow is what they're stuck with? Just where the population, I'd like to protect the ladies as much as possible, even on these hunter choice ones, to really encourage people to take a bull. But is there any way those cow permits, if they choose to continue to hunt, if they could do a bull?
So Rusty, could we give him the option, or is that too far out of the line?
I'm gonna pass that on to Lindy. A lot smarter than me.
You would.
Yeah, I would.
So with it being a cow hunt, my thoughts was people apply for that because it is easier to draw out. You have less applicants, so people, have less points. And if you let them go to a hunter's choice, you're taking those lesser point people that apply for the cow for that purpose, and you now put them in hunting bulls that would have taken probably a handful more years to actually draw out for.
Paula, were you asking about hunter's choice permits and making them harvest a bull?
No, I mean, that side of it, I just would say encourage them to harvest a bull, but for the cow only,
Oh,
giving
gotcha.
them a bull watch. I can see where Lindy's coming from on that, where it does give them an advantage, I guess.
We definitely give them that more of an advantage of they got the whole pie instead of what they actually took at the dinner table.
Yeah, that's just interesting. Legally, is there anything that way they have to shoot what sex they apply for?
We would have probably defer that to our attorney to see if you guys have the authority to change that permit to a hunter's choice versus a cow. But that probably would be my recommendation, is to get some legal advice on that one, because we've actually never set that precedence of switching the actual sex of the permit.
I think that would be a new one for the attorneys.
Yeah.
The board has quite wide breadth to set these permits and do it as they seem fit, but I would probably need a few minutes to try and look into that, because we've never had that come up before. So
Does that mean that we need to postpone action on this motion?
Just to clarify, maybe this will help. We are recommending that the cow hunters switch units, so they're not hunting on that unit anymore. They would be hunting the Little Creek South unit, which wasn't affected by the outbreak.
But what does that have to do with switching from a cow to a bull?
That's what I'm wondering.
I think
It doesn't-
Paula was thinking we were still gonna harvest the cows on the unit that's took the population hit. So with that switch, that'll alleviate that.
Okay, I'd like to call for question on the motion.
Okay, do I have a second on Chris's motion?
I think, wasn't there a second before? Maybe there wasn't.
There was, it was me.
It's
Ryan,
already
sorry. not me,
Ryan.
no, Ryan,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, seconded by Ryan.
Seconded it.
All right, let's call for a vote and we'll do roll call. Start with Paula.
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All
right,
Mr. Chair, I'm afraid I need to sign off. I had a hard stop at 10, but thank you for this meeting and sorry to leave a little early.
We've got the next item's an informational item. It's not an action item, so you can easy catch up on it later.
Thanks
Thank you,
all.
Chris.
Have a good rest of your week and weekend.
All right. Our next item is an informational item, and it's the wildfire relief related hunting permits. And we'll have Lindy Varney, the Administrative Services Assistant Chief, talk to us about that. Go ahead, Lindy.
Sorry, I have to turn the mic on. Thank you for letting me give you guys a brief update. Like like Gary said, I am the Lindy Varney. I'm the Admin Assistant Chief. So I will be giving an update of what's been going on in Utah when it comes to our natural disaster relief that you guys approved end of last year as a new rule. So just kind of wanted to remind you guys of the criteria that we have in order to grant relief to our hunters. So if a natural disaster affects a hunting unit, the DWR director has the authority to grant relief if all of the following criteria are met. So more than 50% of the hunting opportunities are unavailable, and access to more than 50% of the public land within that individual unit has been closed due to administrative action by the state or federal government. As we all know, there hasn't been some major fires in Utah. So we have granted relief. And so when on the next slides, I'll show you which units we did grant relief on. But when we talk about the options we gave our hunters for our limited entry hunts and our once in a lifetime hunts, we did, offer them the chance to reinstate their bonus points, including one for the current year, and issue a refund minus the $25, or to extend their hunt to the 2027 season. And they could make that decision up to the day before their hunt starts. So we kind of waived that 30-day window for them. And then for our general season hunts, the relief was granted to reinstate their points, including one for the current year, and issue a refund minus the $25 processing handling fee. I do want to point out that we did not recommend granting relief to our dedicated hunters for a couple of reasons. And the main ones were because their permit does provide a 3 or 4 seasons of hunting opportunities. And we felt that they have had or will still have adequate opportunity to use their permits on these fires. This year, when we were looking at, which hunts to grant relief to, we decided to take a stab at it by going by hunt, like season by season. So we went to the archery hunts first, and we looked at just archery. And then we went to the next, if it was an illegal weapon hunt for elk, we went to that, or then we went to muzzleloader. That's how we kind of did the approach versus the whole unit as a whole, and going clear out to like October with some of these closures that have been issued, because we have learned, from the Monroe fire, sometimes those closures can end earlier than what they stated on that closure. So we kind of wanted to do it hunt by hunt, just in case those closures were removed, then hunters could still go out there and use their permit. So jumping into the fires that we did grant relief for, the first one was the Cottonwood fire that affected the beaver unit. This fire was discovered on June 22nd. As of yesterday, it claims that it's 95% contained, and the total acreage burned was 97,464 acres. Due to that, these are the hunts that we did grant relief to. So on the beaver unit, we did the limited entry black bear hunt and the once in a lifetime mountain goat hunt, the first season that started on September 5th. And then for the Beaver East unit, we granted relief to the bull elk archery season, the general season buck deer hunt archery, and then the limited entry bull elk multi-season hunt. And then this is kind of how things have been looking with people with the options of how they're surrendering, what it looked like, how many overall permits we had for that particular hunt, how many surrendered out of those, and then it shows you the percentage of our hunters that did take us up on that relief. I'll give you a second to look that over. And this is as of Tuesday, these numbers. We are getting mail still coming in because they had till last Friday to turn their permits in. So these numbers will change a little bit, but I don't see it being like a huge fluctuation after, of this. So moving on to the next fire was a Babylon fire that affected the San Juan unit. This fire was discovered on June 26th. And it means that it's 100% contained, and overall 107,000 acres were burned due to this fire. So due to it, these are the hunts that we granted relief to. on the San Juan unit. As you can see, the San Juan is a pretty big unit itself. And then we have subunits within San Juan. And you can see that breakout. And so as the whole San Juan, we did the restricted pursuit bear permit. There was 2 that happened in July, and then the limited entry black bear permit that started in August. Then the San Bull elk unit, we granted relief to the archery and multi-season hunt. And then for limited entry deer on the San Juan Elk Ridge, we did the archery, muzzleloader, and the multi-season hunt. The reason why we went to the muzzleloader for the Elk Ridge is because that is a smaller portion of the San Juan, and that's where a lot of the closures and fire was still occurring when we made the recommendation. And then we did the San Juan Abajo general season archery hunt. And then here's the graph of all the permits and all the hunts, and then how many people surrendered. And then you can see the percentage of those hunters compared to the permits offered. Okay, then we're moving on to our latest fire, and that's the wide mouth tooth fire. This one was discovered on July 27th, and as of yesterday, it's 93% contained. This is our biggest fire, and we're almost at 130,000 acres burned due to this fire. So with that, the relief that we granted on the Fillmore unit, because again, this one has the Fillmore unit and then a subunit of the Fillmore Pavant. So the Fillmore, we granted relief for the general season buck deer, archery, and muzzleloader hunt. And then for the Fillmore Pavant unit, we did the limited entry bull elk archery, the early any legal weapon, and the muzzleloader hunt, and then the limited entry black bear hunt. And then this is, again, the graph of the opportunities that people have taken the relief opportunity. And that's all I have. If you guys have any questions, that's just a brief overview. And again, these numbers are fluctuating as people, the muzzleloader hunt's coming up, any legal weapon hunt, for the elk are still coming. So they still have several days or weeks to make those decisions. But yeah, I'd love to answer any questions that you guys might have.
I was a little curious about access on some of these. I know the beaver unit. I mean, are they working currently on the roads? Are we getting access to most of the places on these 3 units?
Yes, and if Southern, wants to speak up, but like we've been having weekly meetings with Beaver County and the different departments, that are overseeing the access and the fire. They are working hard to get stuff open, and roads are opening up on the Beaver unit to grant our hunters some access to different parts of the unit. There will be some still closed for a duration of time, just because more of the flooding than anything. But they are working diligently to get those. And then last night on the Fillmore, I saw a Facebook post that they're opening up some roads in Fillmore. They're going to be changing their closure order to allow more access. And I've actually, because of that Facebook post that the Forest Service put out, people are now asking for their permits back on the Fillmore unit, because they're seeing that they're going to have access to their hunting grounds. So again, just because the closure went out to October 31st, they are always more cautious. And if, they can get things done and things are contained quicker, then they do open things up, as we saw last night with the wide mouth tooth fire.
Is that an option for them to get their permit back if they choose?
It depends. If it's been processed where I've refunded them back, then no, because I can't get that money back. But if it hasn't been processed and we're able to, then yes, we would. Because if it's if they want to go out and do it, good for them. But yeah, we'll definitely do it if it has been processed.
Hey, Lindy, I've had a few archery hunters that read the rules very carefully and see that it says if 50% of the opportunity is lost, there'll be some sort of relief. And so he totaled up the days bow hunting versus the days of all 3 other hunts combined together. And if you lose the bow hunt, you've lost more than half your opportunity. He wondered about that. Is that, I know we consider them having opportunities to hunt later, but if we're going with 50% opportunity, that's, if they lose the archery, they've lost more than 50% of their opportunity. Thought about that?
We have, but it's not just opportunity days. It's also talking about habitat. And it's not like where the animals are at. It's not, we don't look at it as days compared to they're out there hunting. Because just because archery season's open for 30 days, do they hunt all 30 days? No. But it's a wide range of 50%. But the way we've been looking at it is all about habitat. Has 50% of the habitat for that particular species been affected by the fire, for the closures. And, you know, and if you're referring to like dedicated hunters, it's a 3-year program. And so, and they get 3 seasons. And, you know, there's plenty of opportunity out there. And so that's the reason why we don't go by days.
Okay, I knew that's what you would say, but I know there's some hunters that are in their last or their 3rd year, and they were just wondering about the 50% thing. All right, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
I've had the same questions, Gary, and I told them more or less the same thing Lindy just said, and I was going to bring that up and ask Lindy, so thank you.
Any other questions for Lindy? Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, Lindy, I just, these are all of these were before these decisions, meaning the archery hunters, because that's the first hunt, were affected by this fire. They were all contacted, right? Ahead of the season. So this isn't the Bison situation. This was all they were given the opportunity.
Correct. And that's why, like, they had to turn the permit in before the season started. We notified them in ample enough time for them to make those decisions.
Okay, and is with the fire, does that push the animals literally out of the units? Is it huntable area? You talked about habitat. I mean, the reason we gave them that is because the animals aren't there within the unit that they've applied for. Would that be a good assessment?
I will defer that probably to someone in wildlife, but we've seen that they do circle back into their natural, you know, habitat grounds. I don't know if Kobe or Rusty or Mike's still on. They want to, because they're the ones that monitor that more than I do.
Yeah, I'm on here, Lindy. I can take that question. So surprisingly, the adults do really well looking at the collars. If you look at the Babylon fire, we had 24 deer that were collared inside the fire perimeter. 23 of those deer are still alive and moving around. Some of them will leave the fire boundary, but if they do, they're typically back within like 2 days. Others, actually, most of them don't really leave. They somehow avoid the fire by finding green patches or a riparian area or somehow avoiding that fire. So it's not necessarily that we're offering these options because we think that the deer have burned up and died. It's more related to that access.
I thought that was good news that they're starting to open up some of the access on the Fillmore. I know some of those main roads got hammered, but some of the little ones, a little greater work could probably make them passable. Any other questions or comments for Lindy?
I just want to thank Lindy for reviewing that with us. Anyway, I was wondering how many permits and people surrendered, and anyway, it's good to see the percentages on how many people are taking advantage of the opportunity. So thanks for sharing that.
Anytime.
Well, thank you, Lindy.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other business that needs to come before the board today that anybody's aware of? I am not aware of anything. All right, just go ahead, Ryan.
Sorry, and I don't want to berate this that we talked about, but while we were sitting here, and it was after the vote on the Bison, I just got a text because his son is relaying the board conversation we had on the archery, and this is Bitter Creek unit, I believe, 26 points. Before July 28th, they could find 100 bison. Since the hunt started, they found 5. This is somebody you probably all know because he sat on many of our racks for many years. It's Randy Walk. He has that tag. He said it's pretty bad, and he says my 26 points for what? I just thought it's fair that I share that. He's struggling out there, and I know everybody's sympathetic, but this is, I guess, an example of what I was really trying to convey or talk about. And that's all, just a comment. But I appreciate what the division's done on the other work. I thought that was really good and fair.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. I did want to send out a reminder that the RAC meetings will start next week, and then we'll be reviewing and getting ready for our September board meeting. So all aboard. If there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to dismiss.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Kent, seconded by
I'll second.
Justin. All right. Board meeting is adjourned.